Welcome to NBR This Week, highlighting the best of NBR's content. When dairy giant Fonterra hired McKinsey, the world's most famous management consultancy, it was contractually obliged to keep the details secret, even from its own shareholders. But does secrecy serve the client or the consultant? McKinsey won't talk about it on the record, but in a written statement says it believes the confidentiality clause is in the client's best interests. The downside for shareholders in Fonterra, whose financial performance plummeted in the wake of McKinsey's involvement, are the unanswered questions: what did McKinsey do for us, and how much did it cost? Law firm Chapman Tripp's annual report on New Zealand's equity markets is out, and it's predicting more delistings from the NZX are likely this year, but is holding out hope for some fresh blood. After just one initial public offer in 2017 and none in 2018, work done to improve the markets will translate to more IPOs in 2019 and 2020. Chapman Tripp partner Rachel Dunn says there's no single factor to blame for the dearth of IPOs, but it's a combination of circumstances, and other exchanges around the world are also seeing more delistings and fewer new listings. However, she foresees at least one IPO this year. Hawke's Bay's Regional Council has indicated it wants to put Napier Port on the block with public support.
So for 2019, we're predicting this will hopefully be the start of a rebound in our capital markets, which will take some time to grow, we think. It's not going to be an immediate return to IPO levels like we saw in 2013 or 2014. But NZX has put a huge amount of effort into setting the stage, so we can hopefully have that rebound. The new listing rules came into effect on the 1st of January and will be compulsory for all issuers from the 1st of July. The equity boards will be consolidated from the 1st of July, and NZX's changes that they implemented around on-market trading have had immediate effect.
Meanwhile, NZX Chief Executive Mark Peterson, who announced its annual after-tax profit had fallen 22% this year, while revenue remained flat, said the equity IPO pipeline looks better than we've seen for a long time. Central bankers used to be sober, grey-suited, stodgy old farts who kept a steady hand on things financial: interest rates, currency, inflation, and the stability of the banking system. That's according to our SHOESHINE columnist, who says the 2008 global financial crisis changed all that with Ben Bernanke, US Federal Reserve, and Mario whatever-it-takes Draghi, European Central Bank, who became celebrity players in the global financial scene. In New Zealand, our central bankers have been the judicious types until, from stage left, Adrian Orr, former ROCKSTAR fund manager. To SHOESHINE's eyes, Mr. Orr seems very much in tune with Labour's thinking and ideals. In short, he looks, walks and quacks like a political appointment. SHOESHINE argues Mr. Orr's style can be seen in decisions such as the Reserve Bank putting out a discussion paper that suggested the big four Aussie-owned banks should increase their capital ratios from 8.5% now to 16% over 5 years. If this is introduced, it will be the toughest capital requirement in the world. SHOESHINE says he would like to see the governor of the Reserve Bank role always in the hands of dull, stodgy old farts, but Mr. Orr is anything but that. Buckle up. Australian investment manager Tanara Credit Partners is claiming first-mover advantage in setting up a New Zealand office to offer mid-sized corporate and private equity companies an alternative to bank credit. Former BNZ corporate finance head Will Carnahan is heading the New Zealand office of Tanara, which raised a $300 million Australian dollar fund in 2017 to lend to companies secured against their cash flows, filling a gap left by the banks. Mr. Carnahan says until 2 years ago, all corporate loans were provided by the banks in Australia and New Zealand, but that has changed significantly across the Tasman, in line with a global trend towards alternative credit. He spoke to NBR's Fiona Rotherham about how the timing is right, given the retreat from corporate lending by banks.
The timing is fantastic, really. If you look at what's happened with the Banking Royal Commission in Australia, the findings from Commissioner Hayne and the associated recommendations to the banks, the market is almost ubiquitous in saying that this will lead to tighter capital restrictions, a pullback in lending. The New Zealand banks are all subsidiaries of the Australian banks. The expectation is absolutely that those same restrictions will flow through to New Zealand.
Police confirmed this week that hacked cryptocurrency exchange Cryptopia could reopen as they have wrapped up their on-scene investigation at its Christchurch headquarters. Detective Inspector Greg Mershon says Cryptopia's management now has full access to its facility and business premises. A month on from the hack, questions remain over who was responsible for the disappearance of more than $23 million in crypto assets. But Mr. Merton says the police investigation is continuing both in New Zealand and in the US. Cryptocurrency experts say there are two obvious possibilities. Either a staff member or a sophisticated hacking organisation was involved. The only respite for victims is that the bleeding appears to have stopped, at least for now. NBR's Calida Stewart-Menteith speaks to Shane Solly from Harbour Asset Management about the week on the markets.
First up, how would you characterise the week that's been?
Well, certainly we've had an interesting week with the Reserve Bank of New Zealand come out with a slightly more tighter tone. They weren't as soft as some people had expected in terms of monetary policy settings. So that certainly surprised one or two people that had been expecting them to talk about perhaps letting easier monetary conditions coming through. But really from a stock market earnings point of view, it's pretty early in the reporting season. We've seen a bit of a mixed reporting season so far, with Scala ahead of expectations, Contact Energy and Oceania in line with expectations, and Sky City slightly below expectations. Probably the real standout in the reporting season so far is that New Zealand companies are actually increasing capital returns to shareholders.
And looking ahead to next week, SHOESHINE takes a look at software as a service company Pushpay and how it takes some conviction to believe a company which is not profitable and has only just reached positive cash flow is going to reap billions in just a few years. So is there a chance the weighty forecast won't pan out? Head to our website to find out more on that and other stories, and have a great weekend.
To unlock your 2 free articles a week, head to nbr.co.nz.